And now I'm excited to introduce you the first of two keynote speakers, Karla Starr. I'm a big fan of Karla. She is a wonderful writer. You know, I always tell WDS speakers, here's a little secret inside tip. I always tell WDS speakers when they say what's the formula for really connecting with the audience, and I always say inspiration with substance, because we want people who are making an emotional connection with the community, maybe willing to share something personal or vulnerable, but also leave us with something substantive, right? That we can actually go and do. So to me, Karla kind of illustrates this through her writing. She has a new Substack newsletter, but she's also written for The Atlantic, for Oprah Magazine, for many, many different publications. She has a book called Can You Learn to Be Lucky? She also co-wrote a book recently with Chip Heath. And she's doing lots of stuff that is inspiring but has substance. So let's hear from her. Please welcome Karla Starr.
It just takes some time, little girl in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be fine.
What's up? How's it going? I've wanted to go to WDS for years, but it's always been sold out. And this is the first year I'm going, and I finally feel like I found my people. And this is the last year. It's no fair. But anyways, I'm just honored to be here, and it's just been, I've had a really lovely experience. So this is just, okay, this is proof that I have done this before. Okay. It's also proof that pre-pandemic, I wore high heels and worked out a little bit more. Same as the rest of us. This I believe was me in front of Wembley Stadium, about 100,000 people. Don't fact check this online, okay? The internet is full of misogyny and lies, and you will not find that. But trust me, I have done this before in front of 100,000 people easily, and very, very successful. And yet, despite that, the second I found out that I was given the honor to be here by Chris, the first thing I did was I went to my computer and I Googled. So they're all good tips. None of them, okay. I have no stage presence. It's not going to be very simple, but it's good. It's nice. There were some things here, and so I was like, oh, right, I've done this before, right? I know technically what I'm supposed to do. So what should I speak about exactly? And same thing came up. Okay, thanks a lot, Google. So now I'm starting to get a little anxious. Now don't really know what I'm going to talk about. And so then I started getting really anxious, and then that thing started happening where the algorithm was just a little too spot on that it started to feel like a hate crime somehow. Like there were just boundaries being crossed. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Fun fact, a couple weeks ago when I first made these slides, I had another little thing. I Googled, no, but seriously, please help. And what came up was a bunch of Ben Stiller. I have no idea. And then last night when I was fixing the slides, I Googled it again because this one was just a little too dark for my liking and I wanted to just zhuzh it up a little bit. So I Googled this exact same thing last night. And what came on? I don't know how Google knew to make the switch from Ben Stiller, to the website for depression, but all I know is that the algorithm knows me and it has caught up. So thank you. I can say this is going to be one of the most important presentations that you're going to see in the next 25 minutes. Thank you so much for that. Who better to talk about how to be perfect, right? You're welcome. Or at the very least, this might not be an attainable goal for everybody. I understand that. But at the very least, what's the best, most scientific way we could become the best version of ourselves? Let me tell you a little bit about myself. My story begins 13.8 billion years ago. Big Bang. I just want to add a little bit of scientific accuracy to this because Mr. Rocket Man yesterday, he just got this completely wrong. He skipped ahead a couple billion years. I don't do that, okay? Letter perfect, thank you. So, and then blah, 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 life, evolution, etc. So here I am. Thank you. And I, like many other people perhaps, I have felt my entire life like I didn't get the handbook, right? Like there's other things that people know and I don't know them, right? Like what exactly is this piece, right? Like what is this thing that I'm missing? And I know obviously there's some, neurons, we know this by now, but specifically what things I feel like I didn't get these life lessons that I needed to become my fully realized self. So let's be honest, the part that I'm missing is maybe a little bit bigger. But still, I want to know, like, that's why I Googled how to give a presentation, right? I'm like, there's something else that I'm not getting, right? Like, there's something else that I don't know, and I want to know what that is. Like, I want to know that one thing. And so in 2008, after I'd been living in Buenos Aires for a few years, I moved back to Portland during the height of the Great Recession. I thought that everyone's lives were great because everyone was posting about hiking on Facebook. As it turns out, all my friends were just unemployed, and hiking was the one thing that they could do for free. The economy really was that bad. So I couldn't get a job. I ended up being depressed, living on my mom's couch. And I thought, what's one thing that I could learn that would help me improve every aspect of my life? And that thing was luck, right? What's the difference between like what I contribute to the world? What's the external stuff? How can I negotiate that? And so that became the theme for my first book, which was published in 2008. So Chris was nice enough to give me a very lovely quote. So I sent it around to some authors because that's what you do after you write a book. You send it around for authors and see if anyone will, give you a little blurb. I sent it out to one of the guys who was on these covers, Chip Heath. He wrote Made to Stick and Switch. And then on some random day a couple of years ago, I get this email. Do you have time for a call? No one's ever seen this email, by the way. So you heard it here first. Blah, 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 blah. You have time for a call. I want to talk to you about writing projects. The one, blah, blah, blah. The other one is deep and important and could generate a very lucrative long-term stream of book sales, speaking, consulting. Chip, you had me at lucrative. You had me at money. Did I capture your attention? Do you bear shit in the woods? Yes, attention, captured. And so, after working with him every day for 3 years, the fruits of our labor were published in January. Yes, this is the thing. Thank you. So I went from my first book, sold 100,000, somewhere between 100 and 1,000 copies. my first book sold. So this one's doing a little bit better. I wonder why. But seriously, there's a website I'll have at the end. I'm starting to give classes for number consultation, and I'd love you guys to be part of the beta program. I'm also giving some workshops for nonprofits and entrepreneurs, free for you guys. So there'll be a link at the end because you guys are my people, and I want to share the knowledge. Woohoo! So what was it like working with him for 3 years? Well, I had to sign an. I can't tell you all the details because I signed an NDA. So I'm not going to say anything specifically, but I learned a lot about what Chip was like as a human being. Again, I'm not actually saying anything, so I'm not violating laws. So our relation. I never could have foreseen how our relationship would have progressed over the years, or where I would be after having had that experience working with him. But it continues to inform my work to this day. And giving Would you guys read that? Because I need to tell my agent that people would read that. Thank you. Again, not violating the NDA, but it was nice. I mean, it was kind of lucrative, but I don't know. It's been quite a roller coaster, quite a journey. But having had that experience and seeing his marketing genius has really helped me understand and think about books in a completely different way. And so here we go. Okay. Here we go. Capitalism, bad. Oh. Consumer culture. Ads. Desire. Once again, apologies if you're overwhelmed by how articulate I am. I have spent the last few years in pajamas talking to my dog. But I think we can agree, capitalism. And ads everywhere, right? You can't even go on your phone with a screen and it's just there, right? Pixels, perfection, blah, 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 constantly making us want things, constantly making us feel like we have some kind of hole at the center of ourselves. We need to buy something. We need to do something. Why do we get this hit from things that we know won't necessarily make us happy? Because in the moment we feel like they're going to fill this thing that we need, right? And so it makes me so happy to be here among this community of people who understand that goods and things are not the way to happiness, right? It's all about experiences. It's all about just being in the present moment, connecting with people. And the only way you can do that is if you prioritize experiences over things. It's only when we lose our identity and forget that it's attached to all those things that we can just go and discover and see the world. And it's only then we can really become the authors and the architects of our own story. It's only when you can stop scratching that itch to do something else that you can embrace wherever you are right here, right now, whatever that looks like. So working with Chip gave me the realization that for some reason, like, books are also consumer products. Books are also just things, right? Even self-help, self-development books, right? Meant to help us become the best versions of ourselves. Like, they're just things that are being sold by people who want to make money, right? Like, they're not above any of that. Capitalism, and all of these things are just kind of getting us to scratch that one thing that we feel like we need to learn in order to really move forward and do whatever it is that we need to do. So the history of success manuals as a genre in American literature, fascinating. I won't give you the whole 5-hour TED talk on that, but I'll give you the 2-second rule. So success manuals started out being sold to families during the Industrial Revolution when their sons and daughters were moving to cities and they couldn't call their parents and ask for help about how to do things. So they would essentially it's like a secularized parent or a secularized Bible, something that they would take with them and that they could learn about all the character strengths and all the things that they needed to learn and how to become an adult on their own terms. And this is from a book called Character is Capital. It's this cultural historian, Judy Hilkin, which is fascinating. You can see in this second sentence here, book agents selling success manuals were advised to pass by homes that would look like this, right? They were passing by the upper middle class people in favor of homes of farmers, tradesmen, and those of modest means, right? From the beginning, they've been targeting people who maybe feel like they want to know this thing that they're missing, right? How is it that they can climb the social ladder and become a better version of themselves? They weren't targeting people who felt comfortable and with where they were. So fast forward, and all of these things today, right, after centuries of marketing and innovation, we have tools of titans, right? Use these tools and then you will be able to finally get your startup done, get your side hustle done. Just turn off the internet and then everything will be fine. So I call this the self-help industrial complex. And so there are a few interesting things here. Okay, first, let's talk about the authors, okay? Who exactly are these people? Oh, I'm getting to that. Where do you think this is going? But think for a second, if you wanted to study or learn about dating, who, or women, right? Who would you listen to? Who, I took out a slide about him, but sir, you are on point. Okay, so you would want to study people who are at the top of their game when it comes to women, right? You would want to study people who like know what they're talking and know what they're doing. People who obviously don't need any help. Who wouldn't read a book about how to get women by Idris Elba or Brad Pitt? Okay, so when we buy books, we want to buy from people who have already reached the pinnacle of success, right? We want to listen to what Brad Pitt would have to say about relationships, right? Because who else would know better than him? And yet, so here it is, right? Here is a preview of what I believe would be Brad Pitt's advice on how to get any woman you want. Number one, go to a place with a woman. Okay. It's that easy, guys. Mindset, okay? Anything else and you're just overcomplicating it. Okay? The 80-20 rule, okay? This is your 80. Just go, just put yourself out there, right? The right person, man, right? So we read this and instinctively know all of you guys correctly have this as your reaction, right? Because you can see an example of that extreme, fucking ridiculous, right? But at the same time, we want simple answers, right? Life is just complicated and hard, difficult enough, right? We're drawn to like these nice, peaceful things, right? Like the two neat tricks that you need to learn, right? Just go to where there are women and then wait. It's so satisfying. And yet, this is one of the huge unintended consequences of self-improvement's privilege problem, right? Fucking rich white guys. Not just them, but I'm saying, we'll listen to things about sports by people who like were genetically happen to have hit the genetic jackpot, right? And so for them, it's just, you know what? Just ask your parents very nicely if they will take you to ski camp. Right? I mean, the world's best skier might be in a Mexican slum somewhere, but we'll never know. We'll never know. So, but they're writing about, right, Brad Pitt and Idris Elba would write about what's difficult to them, and they simply wouldn't even see the rest of the story. Right? So this is known in social psychology as the headwinds, tailwinds asymmetry, right? We know what is difficult to us. We don't realize all the things that have made our journey easier, right? Like, I don't realize how awesome, I kind of realize how awesome it is to be white. It's fine, easy. But, I'm very aware of how much being a woman is annoying, especially now. I limit the news. That's the only way I can stay sane is I just limit the news to like a second a week. So people really tend to underestimate how different other people's lives are from theirs. And I think this is especially true in the self-help world, right? Where you get these people who, I don't know, maybe someone I worked with, they've been at the top of their game for so long, they make so much money, and it's easy for them to forget just how different other people's lives are and how much other things that they have to deal with. So we fail to see this other world has so many extra steps that they haven't had to deal with. So there was another example of this recently. There's this article that came out in the New York Times. You've done self-care, you've languished, now try this. Now, I'm not going to say the name of the author who wrote it. He's because he's a very nice guy. But as someone who is currently coming out of a depressive episode, I was angered. I was so angered when I saw the author, anonymous author, who is a very nice guy, right? He's a coach. He works with high performance people. And this is what he wrote. But depression hates a moving target. The best way out is to force yourself to get going, even and perhaps especially when you don't want to. So, right? Easy. If you can't do something, just force yourself to do something. If you have ADHD, just focus. Anxiety, stop worrying. Okay? Come on. Do you not have enough money? Get a better job. So I remember reading that, and this, by the way, this is a time-lapse photo of me for the last couple of months. The ice cream did not show up in the picture for some reason. But I remember reading that and thinking, as a behavioral science writer, like depression is so much more difficult than that. In fact, it's like this, okay? This is from an article that came out a few years ago on the dynamic complexity and all the behavioral, cognitive, and environmental factors influencing depression, right? It's not just one little thing. It's, yes, take pictures. This is good shit. It's a very complicated process. And so just to take this from someone who hasn't had depression and to just say, just get out of your bed. Ugh. So what is he really selling? But the idea, the promise that it would be so easy, right? Like who wouldn't want to believe that? But I just almost felt a responsibility, like knowing what I know about some of the science behind it, and as someone who has suffered from depression, to tell people, it's not that easy, and you shouldn't feel ashamed for not being able to like just force yourself to do it. It's a complicated medical problem, and my new antidepressants are working, and now I'm it's amazing. But the thing is, there is no one neat trick to be your best self. There's just a lot of things coming together. It's just a very complicated recipe, but people don't get book deals for saying life is hard. They get book deals when they're like, here are 2 steps to meet women. Right? We all want to know, what is this little thing? And interestingly enough, there are a lot of studies showing that whatever it is that tracks between marketing, studies, research results, all these things that end up catching on and becoming viral, they all share a couple of different things, right? It's the most advanced yet acceptable. Minimally, it's just believable enough, right? It's just to the edge of our comfort zone and then just a little bit like, so it's just so tempting, these things, right? Power posing, grit, mindset, right? It's so tempting to believe that it's just one little ingredient when really life is just a whole complex recipe of things. And grit might make the difference between somebody who is supremely privileged and has all the resources they need to become a national swimmer and somebody who has all those things and like just decides to not do it. Right? So we're constantly looking at messages that straddle this line between obvious and what is it? Oh, sorry. Well, can I go back? There we go. Between obvious and obviously BS. Right? There's the no shit Sherlock, and they're like, that can't really work. So somewhere between there, we find the message that catches on. So another thing that I learned when I was researching making numbers count, was just about what numbers do exactly. Numbers are a language. They help us measure and describe the world with great precision. However, they also offer us something called the illusion of objectivity, right? People mistake data for the whole truth when really it's like trying to figure out a movie by looking at a couple pixels on a couple different frames, right? Whatever it is that we're measuring, it's kind of arbitrary and it's not taking into account all the other factors in our lives and all the other things that we have to take into consideration. But it's so tempting to believe that there is that one little answer, that one little thing we can do. And this can make us, because of this objectivity thing, we end up falling down into what I like to call the cult of best practices, right? This guy is tired. He just wants to record his podcast, and he has been reading what tools to use for an hour, right? Raise your hand if you know the 80-20 rule, right? Okay, now raise your hand if at some point you probably would have saved time just doing the thing instead of figuring out how to minimize time just doing the thing. Right? But it's so tempting to believe that like there's this one little thing and it's going to make everything so much easier, right? I mean, come on, it's all clickbait to an extent, right? There was something real simple last month, and I didn't put the slide in, but it was on the cover. It was, do less laundry. On the inside, what was the thing? Make sure your clothes are really dirty. Thank you, real simple. Right? It's just turning into clickbait right now. And it's understandable. Information is soothing. It makes us feel like we're making progress, even though we might just be spinning our wheels and not actually doing the thing. And I feel like sometimes this can make us look at, say, right, Dr. Andrew Huberman, right? He has all of this. If you don't know his podcast, stay that way. I love you. But I hear this guy saying how your brain works. This is exactly what you need to know. And I'm like, you know what? Just sign. Right? Yeah. He's like, this is exactly what you need to do to, you know what? People work in different ways. You know, my have ADHD, my desk is messy. It's fine. I kind of know where things are, right? But there's this idea that this illusion of objectivity, and science is going to tell us exactly the answer that we need to know, right? It's do these things exactly because science. And then that way we'll have everything and it'll be great. So, surprise, I buried the lead. When all this stuff was happening and when I was working with Chip, I was also getting sober. Yay! Thanks. 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 On August 24th, it'll be 5 years without a drink. Thanks. The world is such a better place when I do not have alcohol. But it was really crazy working with Chip and figuring out how to make our message as short and concise as possible. And then talking to people who are having actual big problems, right? And how all the things that they needed to do to disentangle all this toxicity from their lives and to make their lives better. But the two big things that I learned, and this is free to you, you don't have to almost ruin your life to learn them. Number one, wisdom. Okay. Now I recognize that this is just I'm just being hypocritical, telling you to not use a simple framework and then telling you that but this is a good framework. Okay, trust me. This is the good shit. So wisdom, and no one's going to tell you that wisdom is the right thing, right? Because look at this. You don't know everything, right? That's not a flaw, that one missing piece. That's just a sign that you're human, right? Some things are unknowable and everything changes all the time. Cool, you know? Knowing that we can't ever possibly know everything and being okay with that and just being able to move forward, I realized that the one missing piece for me was just something to feel better about myself, right? I just needed enough confidence to move forward. I can tell you, the day my book came out and I fulfilled my lifelong dream, two major things happened. Number one, the button on my Amazon page went from pre-order to buy now. And number two, I just felt a little bit better about myself. And I realized that was what I was really looking for the entire time. And the other big thing that is not in any of the books that is humility, right? It's moving from seeing yourself as the center of the world, right? Is excessive internal focus, and that's the kind of thing that happens when you listen to Huberman and you think it's all about you and your own body chemistry, instead of realizing like, no, you're part of a web, right? You're a part of everything. Like people, there's no hierarchy. Like we're all imperfect equals, and that is beautiful. So not having this excessive self-focus, focusing on other people and how I can make their lives better, focusing on community, being able to laugh at myself, not stressing myself out, right? Not taking myself so seriously. Okay, so I was I don't know. I just thought that science was everything and that was it, and it was all these numbers. And then I got sober and I had a spiritual awakening. I was working on the book, and then I started realizing how all of these, don't worry, it's not going to turn into a religious thing. I just am like, wait, the universe, I don't know how it freaking works, I mean, I guess also who doesn't know how it works? Freaking Einstein, okay? Human mind, no matter how highly trained, cannot grasp the universe, okay? I mean, if Einstein can't, then Tim Ferriss definitely cannot. Why are we listening to him? I don't know. Marketing. So anyways, I leave you with this. This is my one neat trick, is be kind to yourself and just go forth just as you are. You're the real stars. Nice.
Karla Starr. Karla Starr. Karla Starr.